This is the audio podcast. It is show 157, Winter Mixland. It's the 22nd of December 2015, and we're back!
Hey! Hello, I'm Samuel Freeman. That is Scott Hewitt. This is the audio podcast. We haven't done this for ages, and we're doing it today. Last night was the longest night of the year. That's what it was last night, making today a little bit longer than yesterday, maybe the same length, but tomorrow will be longer. Anyway, winter solstice, so we have some Christmassy themed news because we have current news and we have some older news and we have plunder. And we have no video feeds. And we both appear to be in the Hangout as the audio podcast, as far as I can tell. So Hopefully this does actually record. Who knows?
It was July the last time we were in a show. Why have we been gone? It doesn't really matter, I guess. It's just we all have other things to do, and for a while Sam was busy and Adam was around, but I was busy, and then I was busy and Adam was busy, and then it's the problem is, and then we decided that I was like, right, we're going to do one at Christmas, and we'd love to say we're going to return in the new year, like it'd be awesome, but we just can't guarantee that's the case. But yeah. It's just what it is, isn't it?
It is. The audio podcast exists because it's here. You're listening to it. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for listening.
We do have show notes. This is what we usually do at the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, carry on.
And he would probably have told us that if you go to theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/157, then you'll get the notes that we are going to go through today. Links to the stories and a video embed of this recording and all that kind of thing.
That is indeed the case, and I think let us take a moment to acknowledge the exceptional contribution that Adam Yanch made to the audio podcast over in the past, and we've been incredibly grateful for that, and we wish him all the best in everything. So there we go. Awesome. Is that okay?
It is, absolutely. Shall we get into what is current news, albeit an arbitrary selection of it?
Indeed so. So current news, and then arbitrary collection of interesting things that would have been news but are too old to be classified as news, but still we think are interesting. Yes. So right now, or yesterday actually, but depending on where you are in the world, I guess it could be considered now, but by the time you're listening to this, it will definitely be in the past. The PRS for Music and SoundCloud have reached a royalties collection agreement.
Why? Isn't that isn't that in some way good?
Well, so basically, PRS is going to do a royalties collection for SoundCloud, which means that SoundCloud now feel able to are talking about doing a subscription service and are talking about generating advertising revenues. And I think all of that, SoundCloud looking for monetization options for their content creators. I think that's all great stuff. And just isn't the PRS the organization that was designed? It's the thing that it does a good job of collection, but isn't that an old school model? And do they need to be there in the gap?
It is interesting that in the the story that you've linked to, which is dated yesterday, they've reached an agreement with PRS and MCPS. Now those were the two organizations that used to exist: the Performing Rights Society and the Mechanical Copyright Society. So
yes,
the difference between playing a song that's been recorded or not and duplicating a recording of a song. They merged. It's now just the PRS for Music, isn't it?
I believe so, yes.
It used to be some sort of... It's interesting that they're... Yeah. There's the MCPS as a... Is there a mechanical copyright generated when you stream something?
Well, I'm going to ignore that question, Sam.
Okay, good.
I'm going to ignore that question. Great question. I'm sure somebody will email us an answer if they're really interested. Now, I guess before we go on too far here, we should probably acknowledge that both Sam and myself have been recipients of PRS for Music Foundation funding many years ago. So I've said that. Though I don't really feel that anybody's going to be concerned about conflict of interest, because as you've detected, I'm not convinced. I don't really understand why the PRS for Music needs to be involved in this process. And SoundCloud could just, make the deals and then revenue out directly in the way they would do, because PRS take a cut of revenue that goes in, content creator revenue. They collect it, they take a cut of the revenue, and then they give it to you. So as SoundCloud already know who the older people are, I'm not sure how this, you know, why PRS were needed in this deal. But obviously maybe SoundCloud felt they were needed, or maybe, you know, maybe they want to avoid the YouTube situation where with YouTube you have to kind of know that it's your stuff and then go find it and prove it's your stuff. And this way, I guess they're going to say, well, you know, PRS will kind of be all over it, and they're going to identify the stuff like they do with radio plays, and then they're going to bill it and take the revenue out of it that way. So maybe, I don't know.
I suppose there is as a creator, there might be some incentive to put music on SoundCloud that you might not otherwise have done. If you have a PRS thing going on and stuff's going through other channels, you might keep it off of SoundCloud because it's an ambiguous outlet, whereas this makes it an official outlet or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. I was amused. I read the story and I thought to myself, why can't it was in? I thought it was interesting that SoundCloud felt they needed the PRS deal in place to be able to do the advertising and revenue. The advertising and subscription service ideas that they're planning on rolling in 2016. And I was just like, I wonder why they felt that was needed. Everybody else has rolled, you know, because SoundCloud is generally full of original content creation, isn't it? Like in the main, I know it's not entirely, but that's always been my kind of perception. You know, YouTube's where you go to listen to music that you normally would pay for. And SoundCloud is where you go to hear new music that you wouldn't normally have ever heard, that labels aren't interested in promoting anymore from a development point of view, and hence people put it on their SoundClouds, and you go listen to a couple of tracks, and then normally you can get kind of, you know, there'll be links off to places you can go buy the rest of it and stuff like that. That's always, I don't know.
But that, yes, but I agree with your kind of assessment of the way that's SoundCloud is perhaps perceived, but that argument goes against what we've said a lot of times on the audio podcasts, which is about people should be paid for what they do.
That's very true.
You know, this way, by listening to something, you know that listen has been counted by someone and could contribute to some kind of royalty payment eventually. I don't know.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I thought it was, yeah. I think it's good. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of SoundCloud, always have been. I think if this is, maybe there is a technicality, or they feel that this is, you know, going to be incredibly useful for them as a deal, and hence it's possible. I can imagine now that any music that PRS have responsibility for collection of, they're probably going to be big advocates of SoundCloud now, and that's probably a good thing anyway. Like as an agency, they are very well linked into many labels, and you can imagine this would be a real, you know, SoundCloud are an online audio system which are playing by the rules and very well, in my opinion, are doing a very good job of what they do, and maybe that's an important thing. You know what I mean? That's
and the way that SoundCloud have written this up is very much that this isn't an end in itself. It's kind of a piece in a puzzle. They're moving towards this monetization thing, and it goes alongside other agreements that they've got with other music licensing bodies. So
very good. Well, moving on for PRS Music and SoundCloud, our first of what are, I guess, there's a few festive items going to appear in the next in this show. The Ghostly Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas. This is a New Scientist article, which is about auditory illusions.
It's about auditory illusions, which I love, and it's also about Black MIDI, which is kind of almost, which is also a brilliant thing. So, yeah. So the story here is that somebody took a recording of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas, presumably as an MP3 or something, threw it through analysis software which spits out MIDI, therefore creating a dense MIDI file that can then be played back through general MIDI and sounds sort of like the entire mix of their Christmas pop song. The illusion comes in that when you listen to this MIDI rendition, you can hear the voice. You can hear the voice singing, or can you? That's the illusion.
Yes, indeed so. Yeah. So, because the point is obviously the playback is while most of the examples of this you'll find is when people have done the playback through a MIDI system and recorded it as an audio file. So you are playing back an audio file, but you're playing back an audio file that's been recorded, but from the MIDI synthesized elements. So there is no human voice involved, which is where when you then think, hey, I can hear a person singing this, kind of, that's the illusion, isn't it? Now, I hear the voice. I hear the voice. I hear the words. but then I know the song really well because I play a lot of gigs over Christmas, and it's obviously a song that you would know really well if you do that kind of thing. Could you hear the voice, Sam?
Not at first, but then later on I could. At first I was, distracted by the whole thing. I was listening to it very technically, but then I started reading the story again, which was linked to it, and at that point I wasn't listening so carefully to the individual things and I kind of knew what the trick would be, because the analysis software is looking at all of the partials, and as long as you've got appropriate formants, even though each of those formants is going to have additional harmonics because they're all being played on a piano sound, the fact that you've got that amplitude and frequency thing. Also, because it's MIDI, everything's quantized to 12 notes. So it's very, and yet, indeed, by the end I could hear it. So, yeah.
It seemed to me that your ability to hear the words, hear the voice, the singing, is based largely on your knowledge of the song. If you know the song, you'll hear it almost like it. Like, for everybody I played it to who I know knows the song well and heard the voice immediately. For other people, they were like, "Oh no, I don't hear any kind of singing." And it was like, "Oh well, if you don't, So, but hey, I guess that's.
I'm impressed that people don't know the song. I thought it was so. There's a handful of Christmas songs out there that just, maybe like you said. I applaud the people who don't know the song well enough to not be able to hear it. I think it's a great achievement.
So, for those people who are in the world of Macs or live life to the max, that would have been a nice linkage there. Then Cycling 74 have released their Max version 7.1, which comes with a new package manager. So there's now a way of installing groups of patches and abstractions for reuse again. Yay for that! And also snapshots as well, which is really cool. There we go.
It is really cool. I have mixed feelings about this. I've not tried 7.1 yet, but I have had various projects with Max 7 now, and okay. It's all. I'm gonna play like the old man card and like be grumpy about it's not like it used to be.
Yeah, I was really upset. I'm really upset by all the interface stuff. So as a lot of people know, most of my projects are still in 5. I am actually transitioning to 7. That is something that's going to happen. I'm jumping 6. I was always going to jump 6. I was never going in 6. I'm going to 7, and I have came to that realization that I now entirely rely on the fact that I can press that I know the keyboard shortcuts, and so I press N and then start typing the name of the object I want. And there was a moment where I was kind of doing a teaching exercise with somebody. This was back in August. I was doing a kind of teaching thing, and they were on 7, and I was like, oh wow, it's like nothing is where it should be in terms of getting, click here to go get this object. And I, but that's old man issue here. You know what I mean? It was just, it's not like it used to be.
You can, the thing, I need to dig into this a bit more. Maybe someone could tell me the answer. But so the new palette bits around the edge of the patch, they're there on your old patches as well. You can switch them off. There's a keyboard shortcut you can press and they disappear, and then those extra 20 pixels around the edge or whatever it is disappear. But when I have a lot of old patches that have a lot of windows that open up and they all fit into each other, and now they all overlap and it's all a bit messy. I have to switch them all off. I find that a little bit frustrating, but again, it's just a migration thing.
There you go. Moving on, Shure of SM58 fame have released a new series of microphones and interfaces. There we are, MOTIV series. They work on iOS, Mac, and PC. Something like this will, something that's happened in the last 6 months. Our last show I think was July. Actually, it was July. But something that's really cool that's happened in the last couple of months. I don't know if you've kind of noticed this or not, Sam, but there is now a huge number of interfaces that come with iOS and also Mac PC support. I've been looking for an interface for an iPad Mini, and I was like, oh, I wonder what kind of options are there. And I went looking briefly, and this was again in September, and I was shocked at the fact that there are now so many interfaces available that do all 3, and I was greatly encouraged by that. Here's a set by Shure. They're available. You can find more details online. That's my level of interest in that, to be honest. I don't know if you have any further.
Yeah, some. Moving on. I don't suggest we go back, but I just wanted to say I had I had a handful of interesting things to say that was actually about the 7.1 release, but we just moaned and said
I'm
That's
sorry,
fine.
Sam.
No, it's fine. I don't want to go back. I just wanted to acknowledge that I realised we didn't actually say anything really just then, but that's okay. That is kind of standard. On this, I was going to pick in and moan about some of the information that's readily available and what's not, because these are digital. Like, so it's a microphone, but it's got a digital output, goes onto USB. It doesn't tell you what the sample rate is up front.
Oh, I think they top out at 48, don't they? I think with I think iOS tops out at 48.
Fair enough. I've got I'm now on another device getting to the second time that I've loaded up the thing and so
I applaud you, Sam. You're doing a much better. You know, for our listeners, you're doing a much more thorough job. Whereas I'm just pointing at things that they might be interested in looking at some point in the future. That's cool. I'm just saying that's like I respect that. You know? I'll try and find. We're finding a sample right here. That's a relevant question if they offer it as an answer.
Okay. Well, I've got as far as the what's it called, the PDF. I appear to not have English. It's well, no, I think in terms of listener service right now, we're just filling time while we try and find information that they could try and find themselves if they care.
And they say it's at CD quality and above, so you can definitely get 44.1. And it's something we've whinged about before in the past, isn't it, and stuff like this. But we have to be honest about it, which is that, let's face it, CD quality is largely in excess of what you need most of the time. Anyway, nowadays, isn't it? I know that's a controversial. Scott comes out with his controversial statement of today. But let's face it, you're going to produce whatever it is that you produce, and then you're going to kind of smash it into an MP3 or an AAC file, at some sort of resolution, and then at that point, you're back to, you're back to, well, I mean, if you're recording at 96K, then essentially you've just got a giant file to copy around now.
Yeah, I've got into the habit of, I've been using Reaper quite a lot, and in the past I would always bounce to WAV and then do whatever else afterwards, even with late stages. But I've been bouncing, works in progress direct to MP3.
In the spirit of producing music for people to listen at formats that are lower quality than historically would have been available or currently are available, it's nice to see that Tesco's are now going to be stocking LPs in some stores. Have you seen any LPs in a Tesco's? Have you been in a Tesco's?
No, I've not seen any MPs. I've not seen any. I've not seen much in a Tesco. I may have been in a Tesco once or twice since this was announced.
Yeah. I was in a giant Tesco doing some Christmas shopping last night, and they had no vinyl at all. So there you go. And this was like a massive, like the kind of, the 24-hour ones where you can kind of wander around it for a day sort of style.
The kind of one where they bought all of the streets in a town centre and put a roof over it and called it Tesco.
This one is kind of on the outskirts of an industrial park, but essentially, yes, that is it. So anyway, there you go. I guess it's kind of, I guess it's an acknowledgement of the fact that vinyl is selling. At the same point, I can't imagine that many people who are buying vinyl are actually shopping in Tesco. I just think it's a complete, I think it's a ridiculous story. You know what I mean? I think people living in city centers who are buying vinyl, of which I am certain there is a large group of, they are not the people who are then driving out. They probably don't have cars to then, they don't own cars. They're not driving to superstores out of town to do shopping in Tesco. It's just not working. You know what I mean? But anyway, there we go. That's me. It's good of us to whinge. I'm saying people may have missed our whinging, and this is great quality of it. So if you're buying vinyl and for some reason you're in Tesco as well, then you'd find there would be a collection available to buy. Though obviously there is an infinite collection of it available to be delivered the next day online, which one suspects is what you're probably doing anyway.
I suppose the kind of interesting aspect to this story from a historical point of view is that Tesco is such a new seller of things in the grand scheme of things that it has never before now stocked LPs, whereas other people will have stocked LPs in the past and then maybe stopped doing that. Stopped. Okay. This is the first time that Tesco have ever purchased LPs for resale.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we're segueing into our new once ever feature moment here, or section at least, which is to say that these are news items that would have been news items in shows had we done a show since July, And we've kind of left them in because we think they're like, they're maybe the important things that happened in our opinion, or at least a summary of the important things that happened in our opinion. And that's so we wanted to just quickly talk about them anyway. Is that a fair enough introduction, do you feel, Sam?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take the first one, which is that Native Instruments announced the release of Stem Creator, which was to go alongside their Creator kind of their stems format, which is a distribution for a new distribution format where you can distribute the stems of the mix and then bring them into other environments to use them in other ways. And I personally think that this could, if adopted, this could be an incredibly exciting kind of new distribution format for a whole variety of different uses and things like this. And I know there are other distribution formats, and even in the multi-channel world, you could say something like 5.1 Dolby encoded is probably the best example of a mass market multi-file, multi-stream kind of in terms of content on a fixed media kind of thing format. And it's never really taken off in the music world for a whole variety of reasons. And stems could be a good choice. And, with Native Instruments, they're I think it's cool. So the fact it exists, I thought was awesome. There you go. How about could you tell us about Rolly? What was of interest for you about Rolly?
Okay, I will segue into that. Maybe we should say a little bit more about what the stems
is. If you want to. I was pushing us for time. That's all. I'm pushing.
Okay. Well, okay. So, good thing about it is it's already using the standards. It wraps it in an MP4. You've still got the stereo thing in there, but the limit of it is that it's not an arbitrary number of stems that you can put in there. It's always 4. You've got the stereo master, and then you've got 4 stereo stems in there to play with.
Cool.
That is kind of like, and unlike something like 5.1, the assumption is that these stems are going to be used. This is a distribution format where so it's come from Native Instruments, famous for Tractor, and they are expecting DJs to be taking these stems files, these MP4 files, dropping them into Tractor, and then being able to mix elements of the music in and out. So it's making interactive mixes kind of thing. Whereas 5.1 is a finished master 5 or 6 channel thing. It's not something to do anything with other than playback. Yeah. Whereas stems is something is more of a substance. The segue is a visual one. If you were to download the Stems Maker app from stems-music.com, the link's available, then you'll see that its logo is its icon on the desktop or whatever is kind of a black square with some horizontal colored lines. Now, if you take those horizontal colored lines and rotate them 90 degrees so you have vertical colored lines, and that creates the icon, which you can get for the Rolly app, which is new. It's not in the notes, but Rolly have this week released a iOS app called Noise, which gives you a kind of touch version of their instruments, of which Seaboard Grand we knew about, and this old news story, which eventually I've arrived at, is the Seaboard Rise, was released. You probably know about it if you're listening to this, or not. I don't know. How was that?
That's cool, and it's an example of the kind of a lot of the new interface work that's been happening over the last couple of years, and into this more expressive, developed, more fluid kind of interface sort of stuff, which is cool. Like, we've seen lots of interface work in terms of fader boxes and dials and things you can wave at cameras, but this is like a physical object with a real musicality about it. And I hope it's the beginning of what maybe is going to be a reinvention of musical instrumentation in the next couple of years, maybe.
Yep, multi-dimensional controllers, they're calling it.
Cool.
It's like Bitwig. We didn't bother mentioning them, but they were quite pleased to be announcing full support for that in their updates recently in the past few months. I don't know exactly when it was. But onward.
Onward. Onward we go then. I thought this was an interesting story from back in September. In the UK at the moment, where you're currently dealing with the BBC Charter Review. This is the BBC is a publicly funded broadcaster which receives the vast majority of its, receives a portion of its income from license fee, which is imposed on anybody who wants to watch a TV in the United Kingdom, and as a consequence, the government, while isn't in charge of it, theoretically has a significant say over what it does, because they're in charge of how much money it has, and they're having a review about what the BBC might do in the future. And as part of that discussion, there was a discussion of a possible streaming service in the future.
There
for
was.
music.
Yep.
Which I thought was the most obvious thing in the world. I've got to be honest with you. I have been arguing this for years and years and years, and nobody will ever listen, which is fine. But the solution to the BBC funding issue is the opposite, is the same one as everything which is currently in place, which is to say that you essentially do an on-demand catch-up of the last week or something like that, and then you give people the opportunity to pay for the back catalogue. And the BBC Music back catalogue is massive. They recorded most of it themselves, because you've got all the Top of the Pops, live Top of the Pops, all the BBC Live stuff. You've got all the performances that are done on the various different kind of variety and chat shows over the years. There's a huge body of work where essentially the only thing they have to pay for is, the kind of writers and the performance stuff. They own the mechanical, they're going to own the actual mechanical copyright. And that'd be a really cool kind of thing to subscribe to. It's like, hey, I can go back and watch any episode of Jules Holland ever. And then any episode of Top of the Pops too, and any episode of Top of the Pops. And then, you could even imagine a thing which allows you to go in and choose a performance. So instead of it being Top of the Pops 2 with a mix of stuff, you could actually go in and say, actually, I want to watch this performance of this on this day and whatever. It would be an incredible resource. And I'm sure if you were to push that out into the other back catalogue assets that the BBC has, it would be really exciting. But obviously, we're only interested in the music side for
of course. But it is in there as something that's going to be in this report. It's 100 pages long or something. And I think page 83, I can't get it to load right now, but something like that is the one that discusses this kind of idea the most. But within that document, there's loads of statistics and stuff about what's changed in terms of usage and that. Yeah. Anyway, the thing I'm trying to get to is that there's a quote in there which is from the founder of Netflix, acknowledging that BBC iPlayer was way ahead of the game in terms of on-demand streaming. So BBC have already set precedent in terms of leading this field, if that makes sense. So it's not like they're saying this is a new thing, let's do it. They're saying we're going to do more of this, we're going to make it better, probably in the ways that you've described.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it a lot. And then our final item of historical news for today is to acknowledge that while we are in a period of traditional festive celebration, if you happen to be celebrating a birthday, then from 2016 onwards, there's a good chance that you can sing happy birthday and no longer have to worry about a copyright shakedown.
Yes. Are you familiar with the content creator who goes by the name of Vi Hart?
I am not, no.
I've linked some of her stuff in the past. I haven't got a link, but she did a happy birthday day video song where she discusses not only the copyright issues around it and how they resolved, but the fact that as a piece of popular folky music, it's likely to be the most popular song and everyone knows it, and yet it's not. Everyone tells us that the common conception is that the popular things are simple in terms of melody and time, whereas this is a thing which is not in 4/4. It changes time as it goes along, and everybody gets it exactly right. I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched it because this isn't news. This isn't new news, but it's good.
Awesome stuff. Well, as we work through the show notes, and I have to work purely off the show notes today. The show notes remind me that we're perhaps meant to remind you that you can, if you enjoy the audio podcast and you're not subscribed, then you can find us on iTunes, YouTube, Gpodder, and Stitcher. We have the world's least used mailing list of all time, i.e., we're yet to ever send an email on it. But nonetheless, if you wanted to subscribe, we may one day send you an email. And with that, we're in plunder, maybe? Do you think?
I think so. We could.
Arg, plunder.
Arg, indeed, yes. So there's a Christmas playlist. There's a tap, as in the audio podcast, Christmas playlist. This is quite exciting. I've yet to listen to this, but I've seen that you've put this together, Scott. Yeah.
So if like me, you may have spent a substantial amount of December and quite a portion of November dealing with the Christmas music onslaught. So this is a playlist of music designed to to be a little bit different. So you're not going to find the All I Want for Christmas Is You here on this YouTube playlist. Rather, you're going to find such classics as I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. There you go. So just something, a little treat, a little gift from us at the audio podcast to you. And writing the audio podcast Christmas playlist was just exhausting. And I'm sure people have probably picked up on the fact that we refer to this colloquially, internally ourselves as TAP. So hence. I just thought I'd call it the Tap Christmas playlist. There you go. It's on YouTube. I'm sure over time people will delete the videos and the videos get taken down. So,
but maybe you're on the internet, you're online, and you do want some sort of like, background beats perhaps, but you would like to create it yourself. If only there was some way that you could do that in the browser.
Sam, there is an HTML 909 rhythm composer online, which is a great way to spend the holiday making a groove.
It works well on my iOS devicey thing, iPad Mini 2. Yeah, well, I say, it works. You have to,
It is a 909 clone built in the browser using HTML5 web audio API and JavaScript and stuff like that. So it's a big, ambitious, cool project, and it works, and it's fun. There we go.
It works really well compared to the earliest, when HTML5 was in its early days and people were doing audio stuff, right from the beginning. Drum Machines is one of the things that's been there from the start. This probably is the best one of these I've seen. It sounds good. It works well. It glitches occasionally, but you'd expect that.
Cool, indeed. So, we've already talked about All I Want for Christmas Is You, and we have there's a little YouTube mashup of All I Want for Christmas Is You in many, many different styles, which is Plunder appropriate, I felt.
It is. It's also an impressive performance. The lead vocal appears to have been done in a single. I don't know if it really was, but at least it's filmed as if it was done in a single take. Do you think it really was?
I'm not. Maybe. I couldn't decide.
I mean, it's obviously layered up. I think, it's good anyway. I kind of expected this to be a mashup of cutting different edits of videos. The poster was 10-second songs or something. Is that what the users call 10-second songs? Is the name of the person post? Well, that's the user account name. Their actual name is something different. I gave up trying to load it. Yeah.
There we go. Talking about recordings of many different styles. The UCSB archive of gathered cylinder recordings from the late 1800s onwards is available. Is a resource. It's online. Like, you can actually go listen to famous long dead people on cylinders on the internet.
Before the LP became the de facto thing, still available now, available in Tesco somewhere. Cylinders was the way it sounds recorded. And one of my favorite things that I learned from Adam Yanch is that whereas we associate recorded music with repeatability, like it's been recorded and you can listen to the same performance again and again, with cylinders, because there was no way of mass producing it in the same way as you can with vinyl, where you can make a mold and stamp it onto something else, each cylinder was a recording of a live performance. And so if they were mass producing cylinders, they were mass recording it. Every new cylinder was a new performance of the same song, apparently. I mean, there may be more to it than that, but that's
cool. Awesome. And then our final item of plunder. There we go. The final item of plunder. I love these kind of features in software, so I thought it would be kind of fun. But there is a way in Max. So again, back to Max and Max 7 here now. Has always had a way of crashing it deliberately inside it. But there is a Site74 have a blog post talking about the new recovery system inside Max. So the fact that you can, if Max crashes, it actually tends to recover with the file saved as if it. You don't tend to lose.
I think it's actually the option now, because of the way they've implemented the undo history. If it crashes when you restart it, it recognizes that it did crash, and then it will offer to recreate the state of your patch based on the history. The
undo history and the save, which is cool. And it's also kind of fun that there's a blog post which tells you how to make it crash as well, which is kind of fun as well.
Well, yeah, that's always been there. You just send crash, don't you? That's it. Was it the relaunch? Was it within that? Was it within the same post I read recently? Was it the relaunch?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. There's been some other stuff recently about that as well. There's a feature not in I'm not sure actually. Maybe it's in there as well. But there is a new feature inside them. It's actually a Max 7.1 feature, isn't it? That's what it is. It's one of the features we didn't talk about, where you can now make it so it automatically restarts if it does an automatic restart now for installation work. You can say at the start of the day restart the whole patch.
Which if you've got a patch that kind of, it's quite easy to make a patch that starts off fine and then 2 hours later grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
And now you can just have it automatically restart. That's cool. Anyway, I'm going to stop.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, with that, we've made it. We've made it through the news. We made it through the historical news. We've made it all the way through the plunder as well. So, good work, us. Very, very happy about that. Don't forget, if you if you're listening to the audio podcast, then you can subscribe to us. You can find out about that. All the show notes and everything is at theaudiopodcast.co.uk. You can find us on the various social media sites as well. On email as well. We're kind of, we are. I think we're grumpy old men. We still do emails, don't we? Let's face it. Let's I'm a big fan of email. That's kind of historical, such as it as well. We, in all seriousness, to our listeners, there was a big moment. We had a big drive, didn't we, to say let's have a show at the end of let's get a end of 2015 show in, which is what we've done. So this is here. Like, this show will be in the feeds and it will arrive, and that's great. Is the audio podcast continuing onwards? We just don't know, do we? Like, I don't think we've made a decision. I don't think, have we?
I think yeah.
If we got a whole load of people saying, please do another show, then that probably is helpful, isn't it? Do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it probably is. But even if a whole load of people contact us and say do another show, we may not actually do another show. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just the reality of these things, isn't it? Like, yeah. Feels like we're having this is the beauty of podcast format, isn't it? Because if you don't want to listen to us mull this over, then you've obviously stopped listening by now, or you can hit stop right now.
And your player will recognize that you got to near enough the end of the show, that the show is complete now.
And you can kind of do that, isn't it? I guess because it's just one of these things. It's tough for us to find time, but at the same point, I think we generally enjoy doing it. It's some weeks it's hard work getting content, but at the same point, it's very useful for us professionally to have the current news content in mind all the time. So it's always been the way it is. It's like
I think it's probably worth admitting to listeners who've made it this far into the end that really we want to give you better than this.
Yes,
it's called the audio podcast. We're talking about audio technology and technique, and yet we put very little effort into the audio production of this here podcast. We just record it and publish it.
That is true. We would like to make it a lot better, wouldn't we? And we've many times talked about making it a lot better. And normally what happens actually is we talk about making it a lot better, and then the pressure of making it a lot better grinds us to a halt. And then we don't do anything for months. And then we're like, right, we got to do something. So we do it. And then we just chuck it on. And then for a few months, we're just kind of keep some momentum going, and then decide we want to make it better, and then grind to a halt. That is the cycle. We've done that cycle many times, I believe. But such as this. There we go. Anyway, you know what? This has been the audio podcast, show 157, the Win and Mix Land. I am Scott here, and I've had an absolute blast recording this. I hope you found it interesting. And if we never return, then accept my apologies if you're heartbroken over that. If we do return, then I hope you'll be as glad as we are that we returned again, as always. Sam, I would like to say it's been great recording the audio podcast with you over these last few years. In case this is the last ever one, then I want it to be. I want that marker there. I want to acknowledge it's been a great pleasure chatting with you. It's been a great pleasure for Adam Yanch. I'm going to miss somebody here, but Scott McLaughlin, Alex Harker, Sam Burkhead. How am I doing?
Doing good. We've had lots of one-off guests, maybe like double guests, all the interviews we've done. Yeah, a couple of springs to mind, but if you start listing them, then we'll definitely forget people.
We definitely miss people. I think we got all of our repeated co-guests, co-presenters there in our list, which was nice. So it's been, it's been a great pleasure to do that as well. So there we go.
That was a long thing. That after you said your name, but I'm going to say my name anyway. I'm Samuel Freeman, and yes, ditto to all that. I reckon we'll be back there. I can't imagine we'd stop at 157. It's not a round number.
That sounds like we're coming back, guys, but you never know. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.